Good Wednesday evening, listeners, and thank you for joining me on this edition of Conversations of a Sister here on my YouTube channel. And in tonight's conversation, we're going to talk about what is happening in our country right now. What is happening in this country right now? So, we have several things going on since Trump has taken office in the White House. It has been nothing but chaos, confusion, and turmoil. We have people protesting throughout the country with a protest that just took place on April 5th and another one slated to take place this weekend. We have these crazy tariffs that is sending the stock market plummeting to zero. Is wreaking havoc on savings accounts, 401k plans, investment bonds, you name it. So we are really in the middle of a financial and constitutional crisis, also with the current administration defying laws surrounding due process and migrants that are being deported out of this country to notorious jails in El Salvador, just to name a few. We have several things happening that is causing people to be uncomfortable and want to go into civil distress, I'm going to say, uh, because so many individuals, so many people throughout this country are just afraid. Not only are some living in fear, when you start firing federal employees in the masses, that is going to send inflation skyrocketing. And then on top of that, we have these tariffs that was slapped on our allies as well as every country. So people are wondering what what is going on? Like why at this point? Just just why? It's like why the tariffs? Who has been getting over, as Trump has stated, on the United States for all these years, and now we're getting back at them with tariffs. It's like how is this even justified? And why is it even necessary? It doesn't matter because the stock market is answering it diligently. Everything is tanking. The Dow, the SOP, every stock market in every country is tanking due to these tariffs. That is going to raise the cost of living for Americans here in the United States. So let's see. And Trump's what? 90 days in office, 120 days in office. He has had uh, the dismantling of the Department of Education, the dismantling of the African American Museum. He wants schools to stop teaching Black history. He's trying to enforce his DEI policies across the country, corporate America, institutions, private institutions. I'm telling you, this whole DEI thing, it's like the Trump administration is obsessed with it. And he's trying to shove it, onto other individuals. People are like, we're not doing that. We're not going back to the 1930s, the 1940s. We're not going back. But the problem is that he's trying to force this on individuals by withholding funding, federal funding that has already been approved by Congress. But he's threatening to withhold funding for these institutions that do not follow his DEI policies. He wants his DEI policies implemented. I'm going to tell you something. There was a gentleman who was talking the other day on television, and he said that this whole Trump DEI policy and his administration's attack on DEI and, bringing us back to the 1930s, 1940s racism is all due to the fact that Barack Obama served 8 consecutive years in the White House, an African American president who was educated, decent, one wife, children, just decent. And people can't fathom that Barack and Michelle Obama were decent individuals. They have to start rumors about them. The marriage was fake. The love was fake. The kids were fake. This was fake. They could not fathom that a decent black man held office in the White House for 8 years. And he was educated. So, what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to undo every policy that Barack Obama may have implemented. This is what he's trying to do. He's even taken down Barack Obama's picture in the White House. That is how obsessed he is with Barack Obama. So a lot of what we're seeing is a rollback on policies that enforce racism, that embodies racism. Racism in our culture, racism in our educational institutions. And you have some people saying, fuck you, basically, we're not going back. Harvard University replied with a scathing response. We're not going back. You cannot tell us what to do as a private institution. We're not going back. We are not going to adhere to this DEI policy that you want to implement. And of late, Donald Trump has been deporting migrants because, again, he's trying to outdo Barack Obama deportation numbers. So he's trying to get people deported by any means necessary, even if that means deporting innocent individuals, because he's deported, I think, about 238 men that are innocent from the United States, one being Kilmore Garcia, the one that's in the media now, that the judge told him to get back to the United States, and the Supreme Court ruled against him 9-0, that he had to follow the law and the Constitution of the United States. But Donald Trump and his administration has been adamant about Kilmore Garcia never returning to this country. Bondi spoke today and stated that he'll never return to the United States. He will never come back here, she said. That is being openly defiant. Openly defiant. Because she has to mimic what her boss is saying, the president of the United States. And that is that El Salvador is not going to return him. El Salvador refused to return him. But a judge is saying that he is going to have to hold the Trump administration in contempt. But aside from that, when the El Salvadorian president visited the US 2 days ago or a day ago, he stated that it was a preposterous question to ask whether or not Mr. Garcia was going to be released, because that is not something that he can do. He said, I can't smuggle him into the United States, because right now he's saying that he's outlawed, and they are hell bent on ruining this man's reputation by saying that he is a part of a notorious MS-13 gang, when that is not true. But that is the rhetoric that they are using to justify what they are doing. And it's against the law. It is unconstitutional. And I think that the issue that Donald Trump is going to have about dismantling this country and rolling it back is the fact that American citizens, they're not going to take it. They're not going to deal with it. And they're not going to just roll over and allow it to happen. So this Saturday, April 19th, statewide protests are happening throughout the country, just as it did on April 5th, and a lot of news outlets didn't cover it. It is going to happen again this Saturday, April 19th. Statewide coverage is going down here in these United States of America. People are taking it to the street. So now there's several protests going on. So we have the economic blackout, we have the boycott of Target, Walmart, Amazon. So there's two separate protests. So you have one group, which is the People's Organization, who believe that the only protest that wins is economic protest. Is when you protest economically, because holding back your dollar is power, and I agree with him. It absolutely is. So that is the way that they are calling for individuals to protest. Then you have some individuals who want to march. They want to take the protest to the street. They want to take it to the street. They just want to march. They want to protest now. So the difference is that African Americans are not protesting. If you go back on social media, you look online for the millions of people that showed up to protest, Black and brown people were missing. And you had some people who even mentioned it. This lady said, I did not see one police officer. The protest, she said, was completely peaceful. She said, I didn't see not one police officer. There were no police officers present. And she was wondering why. When people jumped in the comment and said, well, police officers were not present because there was no Black and brown people out there with you. See, Black and brown people pose a threat. We've gone through this before. You know, read our history, the history that Donald Trump is trying to dismantle and get rid of. We were sprayed on, pepper sprayed, beat, sprayed with water hose down with hot water, dragged, slapped, arrested, you name it. They did it to our people. But see, African American individuals knew the mandate. They had one job to do, and that was vote on November 5th. Some voted, some did not. So for those who voted, they're like, we're going to sit this one out. We're going to sit this one out because we knew what the charge was. The charge was to get out there and to vote for Kamala Harris. And Kamala said it throughout her campaign. She kept saying, we're not going back, because she knew that her opponent, Donald Trump, was going to take the country back. They were like, oh, Kamala, what do you have to say about Project 2025? Donald Trump said that he has nothing to do with it. She said he lies. He's lying about everything, she said. He has everything to do with it. So why are they playing these clips now? They're playing these clips now of what Kamala Harris said, because what Kamala Harris said is being lived in real time. What Kamala Harris said, Donald Trump is doing in real time. So when you listen to people who voted for Donald Trump, who have lost their jobs, who are losing their homes, who are filing bankruptcy, when you hear the veterans talk about how they supported him and he's taken away our health care, veterans fought for this country. A lot of their issues are due to the fact that they went to war for this country. So now you take the health care away from them, the one thing they need besides their salaries, and you take it away from them. And they supported you because you said you love your veterans. You would do anything for your veterans. And now you strip them of their health care. You strip them of their benefits by making cuts. That is how you love the veterans? Wow. The veterans feel betrayed, as well as those voters who voted for him. But what they didn't realize is that they voted against their own best interests. When you have someone that's giving you the playbook, yes, they might not have been what you wanted, but it was the better of two evils. That's what you go with. And we wouldn't be where we are now had that happened. And some people just decided not to vote because they felt like neither option was good. So either way, they're being affected by it, as we all are, because these tariffs that Trump has imposed is going to raise the price of everything. I'm surprised he didn't put tariffs on the air that we breathe because the tariffs are going to raise everything from groceries to car parts to everything we do in our lives daily. These tariffs will affect us. Donald Trump inherited a healthy economy. What he is doing doesn't make sense. But for me personally, I think that his goal is to hurt the American people. That's his goal. Because everything he's doing is hurting the American people. He wants to tap into Social Security. He wants to tap into Medicaid. He wants to tap into Medicare. He's cutting US aid. He's cutting aid to everything. He's even cut aid to disability children in schools throughout the country. And when you dismantle the Department of Education, what else is left? He's even cutting school lunches. You name it, he's cutting it. How much money is needed? And he's doing it in the guise of federal fraud. Fraud. All of this fraud has been found, but nothing's been reported. Nobody's been arrested. Nobody's been exposed. But people believe it. They believe it without evidence, simply because this is something that he speaks. So they believe it. We have no proof of fraud. I mean, as far as I know, my parents were getting their Social Security religiously. Nobody had cut their benefits. Nobody had cut their Medicaid or Medicare. Nobody cut Section 8 in housing. Really? So all of that was a fraud? So all of these years, assistance to Americans have been a fraud. When have feeding the poor, when has that been a fraud? When has helping those who are less fortunate than us or than you, when has that been a fraud? When? It's like make it make sense because it doesn't. It really does not. So people are angry, people are pissed, and they're taking it to the streets. And they're doing it in protest. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with protest. As a matter of fact, I think it's great that Black and Brown individuals are not getting out there because it's peaceful. But there have been peaceful protests from Black and Black Brown individuals in the past. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were some who fanned the flames, but they were not a part of said Black and Brown groups. But they were paid to protest violently so that they could characterize us as being violent, as being notorious. But yet, when you had the insurrection of January 6th, that was violent. A police officer died. Some people got hurt, and there was not a Black person in sight. But yet, we're labeled, Black and Brown people are labeled the dangerous ones. I find that hilarious that we're judged like that. But I'm not shocked because it is the same way some immigrants are being judged and profiled. And quite frankly, I think it's sad. But you have to know what it's like to be profiled in order to understand it. This woman said on Instagram, she said, It was so many people out there, but I noticed I didn't see black and brown people. She said, and I cannot understand why. She said, I really don't get it. And I responded to her and said, that's because you cannot relate to what black and brown individuals have gone through. You've never been pepper sprayed or tased or hosed down or beaten or dragged or considered a threat. So that's why you don't understand. See, the difference today is that this generation of African American individuals, we're not our ancestors. We're not those ancestors that went through that. They went through that so that we can stand just as we're standing today. Just like, it's like breaking news. Donald Trump is bringing back segregation on a federal level. Black people don't care. And I think I said that before. Nothing that is being done or undone is going to hurt us because it's some people that are not black and brown who feel the exact same way. They're not going back. They're not going back to the 60s. There was a man that I saw a couple of weeks ago who did a documentary on African American. I think they're drive up museums that were a part of the civil rights era. And I think one of them was a theater that they made into a museum that Donald Trump cut funding on. So therefore, people can't tour this museum anymore. And this gentleman was very upset because his mother, who was a white woman, she was a big part of the foundation of that history. And now to see it close, he was hurt. So you have some people, it doesn't matter what color they are, black, brown, blue, or white, when they have the fundamental freedoms of what was fought for in the 1950s and 1960s, they're adamant about the fact that they're not going back. So their attitude is if we have to be the face of protest in 2025, then so be it. We will be the face of protest because we know what they went through. We understand the struggle. We've been there, we've done that. And by golly, if we have to do it again, we're going to do it again. I say protest. I say use your constitutional right to make your voice heard, to make a difference. So let me tell you how I'm protesting. Oh gosh, I have stopped buying. Oh gosh, and it hurts my tongue to even say it. I've stopped buying on Amazon. Oh, and I was such an Amazon addict. I loved Amazon. I had all these subscriptions on Amazon. And I didn't realize it until I actually withdrew from purchasing on Amazon. That's when I realized that I had it bad for Amazon, but I had to withdraw. I had to withdraw because of protests. I never shopped at Target or Walmart. So, it was easy for me to say that I wasn't going to protest there. That was like no big deal. But Amazon, I was an Amazon junkie. I had it bad for Amazon. And I had to let Amazon go. And I must say, I haven't purchased in the past 2 months. I'm even shocked when I say that. But I'm all for the cause. I see how people are hurting. And because people are hurting, that hurts me. It hurts me to know that thousands of federal employees have lost their source of incomes. This one woman spoke And she said both she and her husband work for the federal government. That's two incomes gone in one household. So yeah, I I'm empathetic. I feel for people who are suffering because of this. And I feel for all of us who will suffer from this because the tariffs are going to hit supermarkets. But I think that buying private and buying small, like going to local farmers markets, um, places like Costco, who I think get their produce locally. They're never like affected. Small businesses, I don't know how they will be affected, but some of them are saying they are trying not to impose these extra taxes and costs onto the consumer for now. But it is going to affect all of us. And they even talked about what oil companies did for now so that gas prices do not rise because they may rise as well. So I feel sorry for all of us because we are all going to suffer because some of us were tricked and things happened. So we're all going to suffer for it. But I say absolutely protest. Do what you feel is best. But when you don't see black and brown people, please understand why we're not getting out there. We're sitting this one out. But we are protesting economically. That is absolutely happening. We are not shopping at Target and Walmart and Amazon, and we are spending less. We have proof of that when they report the consumer report on the news. They tell you that consumers have is doing less spending. They're not spending as much. And that's true because I'm not. And I know that others are not. If they are shopping locally. We are going local to our local markets, our local businesses. We are going directly to websites and purchasing our items. We're not getting them from Amazon. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that there is an African American Amazon site that was started. I'll have to reach out to the owner because I believe I follow her on Instagram to get more information so that I can share that here on this platform. But as things get heated throughout this country, there are so many other ways to take a stand. You can contact your local Congress and senators. You can also protest with your dollar because for me, the dollar is powerful. Our money is powerful because there is no economy without our spending. We have to remember that. Think about COVID when everything was shut down. When everything was shut down, the economy shut down. It's the same thing now. There is no economy without our spending. How do you protest if you're not taking it to the street? You close your wallet, you shut it down. And trust me, all protests matter. All protests make a difference. It's not about how you do it, it's about how effective it is. And we want to be effective because we want to send a message. And the message that we're sending is we don't want a dictatorship. America does not have a king. And most importantly, we're not going back. So I thank you for tuning in to tonight's Conversations of a Sister. Like and subscribe my channel so that this way, when the show airs, you'll know about it. We'll talk to you next week for next week's next conversation. Until then, have a great week. Bye.